The bottleneck of azure clouds. High atop Needle Crag, Ethan sat with his legs crossed, as the fierce wind whipped around him. In the world of the azure clouds, power was measured by the spiritual density a person could gather within. Ethan had reached Chi refining level 9, the final step before transcending into a true cultivator. But the accomplishment was no celebration. For Ethan, it was a battle for survival against a cruel curse that shattered his veins, threatening to end his path forever. As Ethan summoned his heaven-devouring art, golden chi swirled violently around his dantian. His energy was unlike any other level 9 disciple. It resistant form, a boiling storm inside him that had to be compressed until it became liquid. The first cycle scorched his meridians like molten lead. The fifth burned impurities from his skin, now deep crimson. By the ninth, an invisible wall arose in his mind, whispering that he would never break through. Yet with trembling hands glowing faint silver, Ethan invoked a secret reserve, a drop of stellar dew hidden beneath his tongue. The mixture of ice-cold dew and fiery chi caused a spiritual explosion. Crack! The mental barrier shattered. His chi condensed into a radiant pool within his soul, achieving the legendary perfect foundation, 10 times denser than any peer. Just then, 3 men appeared from the mist, bearing the jade robes of the Cloudstep sect, the very sect that had betrayed him. Riker, a prodigy newly at the Half-Step Foundation realm, sneered, "Give me the stellar dew, or I'll make sure you fall." Ethan didn't draw a blade. Instead, he stood calmly as Riker's lightning sword swung toward him. Time slowed, and Ethan easily sidestepped, his new senses sharper than ever. A single tap on Riker's wrist unleashed a devastating burst of dense chi, snapping bone and disarming the attacker. The remaining soldiers charged, energy glowing green in their palms, but Ethan formed a golden vortex and unleashed the heaven-devouring palm. The shockwaves sucked in their power and flung them aside. Riker lay clutching his arm, stunned by Ethan's impossible chi density. "Your levels are mere labels," Ethan said as he approached. With a light touch, he placed a spark of his dense chi into Riker's meridians, sealing them until he learned humility. With his breakthrough sealed and a new technique unlocked, the gravity well, Ethan knew his journey had only just begun. Beyond strength, he had carved a new path, one no one could take from him. Chapter 2. The decision was clear. To solidify his perfect foundation, Ethan needed the foundation pill. He required a heaven-grade pill to match the purity of his liquid-dense ki. He turned his back on the groaning disciples and began his descent toward the ghost market of Ironwood. The arrival at Black Market City. Black Market City was a sprawling, subterranean labyrinth hidden beneath the roots of an ancient, dying forest. Here, blood-stained gold and rare herbs changed hands under the watchful eyes of masked enforcers. The air was thick with the scent of smoke, and the whispers of secrets traded in the shadows. As he navigated the narrow alleys, he felt the weight of countless eyes upon him, assessing whether he was friend or foe in this dangerous underbelly of commerce. Ethan donned a simple gray cloak, masking his cultivation signature. To a casual observer, he looked like a common level 3 drifter, the perfect disguise for a predator. The negotiation. Ethan entered the Pavilion of Thousand Treasures, a shop smelling of stale incense and old parchment. The shopkeeper, a withered man with eyes like a hawk, didn't even look up from his ledger. "I seek a foundation pill," Ethan said, his voice dropping an octave. "Heaven grade. No impurities." The old man paused. "Heaven grade? That costs more than most minor sects are worth in a decade. What could a boy like you offer?" Ethan didn't speak. Instead, he pulled out a silk pouch, taken from Riker's belt. He emptied it onto the counter. 3 spirit stones mid-grade. A fragment of a lightning attribute monster core. The Cloudstep manual, the secret technique of the sect that betrayed him. The shopkeeper's eyes widened at the manual. Stealing a sect's core technique was a death sentence, but in the black market, it was the ultimate currency. The unexpected complication. Just as the shopkeeper reached for the manual, a cold voice rang out from the shadows of the balcony above. "That manual belongs to the Cloudstep sect. Anyone who buys it buys a war with us." Ethan didn't turn around. He felt the ripple of energy. It was a Foundation Establishment Level 2 expert. The pressure in the room spiked, causing the wooden floorboards to groan. "The manual is mine to sell," Ethan said calmly, his hand hovering over his own storage ring. "And the price has just gone up." Ethan realized he was outmatched in raw cultivation level, but he had two things the expert didn't. First, the gravity well. His new technique could catch an arrogant opponent off guard. Second, because his chi was liquid, he could sustain a high-intensity battle much longer than a standard level 9. The expert leaped from the balcony, a heavy iron fan in his hand. He didn't use a technique, he simply released his soul pressure, expecting Ethan to collapse to his knees. Instead, Ethan stood like a mountain. He circulated his heaven-devouring art, and the soul pressure seemed to slide off him like rain off a slick stone. "You're not a normal level 9, the expert hissed, his eyes narrowing. "I'm the one you should have left on the mountain," Ethan replied. The words hung in the air like a challenge, igniting a fierce determination in the expert's gaze. With a swift motion, he prepared to unleash his full power, but Ethan was already a step ahead, ready to counter whatever force was thrown his way. Chapter 3. Ethan knew that fighting a Foundation Establishment expert inside a cramped shop was suicide. The collateral damage would draw the city guards, and he couldn't afford to be detained. As the expert lunged, Ethan didn't retreat. He slammed his foot into the floor, detonating a localized burst of chi that shattered the floorboards and sent a cloud of splintered wood and dust into the air. Under the cover of the chaos, he tossed a low-grade, blinding talisman onto the ground. Flash. By the time the expert cleared the white light from his eyes, Ethan was gone, a phantom streaking through the narrow alleyways toward the labyrinth of roots. The labyrinth was a nightmare of massive, petrified tree roots that twisted into natural tunnels and dead ends. The air here was thick with earth miasma, which suppressed spiritual senses, perfect for a predator who knew how to hide. Ethan stopped in a central chamber, where the roots formed a ribcage-like structure. He began to prep the battlefield. The anchor, he poured a portion of his liquid ki into the ground, creating a sinkhole of gravitational pressure. The bait, he intentionally leaked a small, shaky pulse of level 9 ki, making himself sound exhausted. The ambush, the expert, a man named Commander Hauk, crashed through the brush moments later. "Rat, you think a few trees can hide you from a Foundation master?" Hauk stepped into the center of the chamber, his iron fan glowing with a murderous purple light. He raised the fan to deliver a finishing blow, but as he stepped forward, his foot sank 6 inches into the solid earth. "Gravity well, maximum compression," Ethan shouted. The air around Hauk turned into lead. In the Foundation realm, your power comes from the world around you. But Ethan's technique turned Hauk's own weight against him, the lethal strike. Ethan didn't use a flashy spell. He moved with the brutal efficiency of a hunter. He appeared in Hauk's blind spot, his fingers forming into a chi blade. Strike 1, a pierce to the back of the knee, severing the tendon. Strike 2, a palm strike to the lower back, disrupting the flow of Hauk's Foundation pillars. The finisher, Ethan grabbed Hauk's throat, his eyes cold. "You relied on your realm. I relied on my will. That is why you lose." Instead of killing him, Ethan used the heaven-devouring art to strip the spiritual energy from Hauk's iron fan, turning the high-grade treasure into a piece of useless scrap metal. He took Hauk's storage bag and disappeared back into the shadows of the roots. Back in a safe house, Ethan opened Hauk's bag. His eyes widened. Along with several hundred spirit stones, he found exactly what he had come for, a jade box containing a purple cloud Foundation pill, grade perfect. With this, Ethan wouldn't just reach the Foundation realm, he would enter it with the momentum of a falling star. Ethan's current status: item utility, purple cloud pill, ready for consumption, 100% success rate for Ethan. Hauk's spirit stones, enough to fund a year of cultivation. Hidden wound. Ethan's meridians are strained from using gravity well at his current level.